Hello, it's Blockchain here coming at you with another technical analysis update. For those of you just tuning in, I'm primarily an Elliott Wave trader using other areas of Confluence and other technical analysis to really complement my price analysis. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the charts. Alright guys, before we dive into the charts on good old Bitcoin, of course we're going to be starting off on blockchain.trading.com. I do have a very exciting announcement to make. If you scroll on down right here, boom, check it out. Blockchain Trading Masterclass on a pre-launch sale price of $47. After this, it's going to go to $197. So starting, we need to change that. It's actually going to be the 4th. So starting on June 4th, sorry, all mixed up. So starting on June 4th, over the next 6 weeks, I will be doing a one session each week, and it's going to be a live masterclass training session. It's also going to be accompanied by PDFs and a couple other things here. But basically, session 1 is going to cover some different oscillators, so the RSI, how to spot specific ranges and trend reversals, and a pretty interesting one, I think, is the trend lines, and just really why not all trend lines are played on the extremes. In session 2, we're also going to look at the derivative oscillator and the hidden signals of the composite index. Session 3, the secret of the RSI with the volume bands, and some bonus material is going to be your risk management, so obviously you don't want to give back all your profits. Session 4 is going to be introductory to GAN analysis. Lesson 5, we're going to be looking at more of the Elliott Wave principle and applications. And then 6, we're going to go into more of the fib retracements and how to combine Elliott Wave with the oscillators to help predict the price action. So pretty interesting stuff, covers a lot of different things that I really do honestly look at on a daily basis, and I'll actually cover a few of those things here in the video. So pretty neat, guys. Make sure you jump over to my website. I hope to see you guys on there. It's gonna be awesome, and like I said, for $47 for live coaching, you can't really beat it in my opinion. So and then of course, if you'd like to work with me a little bit more directly, we have the exclusive Discord for $25 a month and $147 a year, which is a screaming deal. And that's actually where I'm going to start right now, is actually going to be in the Discord. I just want to cover a couple different things. So I have my own channel in this Discord, so I will post charts, whether it's GAN, thoughts on ETH and Bitcoin, as I do trade those primarily together. Shout outs for the support, of course, upcoming moves for what I'm looking for. And then we also have other full-time professional traders in there as well, such as the Crypto Hippo. This morning, obviously pretty busy posting his thoughts. We have Dragonfly. She also is an Elliott Wave trader. Again, very busy posting their thoughts. We have Odie. A little bit of a different technical trading standpoint, but again, all good stuff. We have Upland, who's also a full-time professional trader, posting all kinds of good stuff as well. And we have our questions, where all of our members can go through, ask us questions about the charts, get support, get some feedback, and really go from there. And just a simple, basic crypto chat where everyone can talk with each other and trade one-on-one alongside. So let's go ahead and dive into the charts here. So let's see. So let's start off on the daily. And for Bitcoin, I'm sure you guys have seen a couple different things for what I've been looking for, whether this is a corrective wave or an impulsive wave. And it really just comes down to a couple things on the higher time frames. So one is, and it's not gonna let me do it again. It's right in the middle of the video button. All right, I'll deal with it. All right, so let's see. So one is going to be if This was the start of our impulsive move up. Would be right here, calling this the end of this downward move instead of right here. And basically right here we'd have our wave one. I should label it out for you, make it a little bit clearer. So this would be our wave one, coming down for the 2, up for the 3, out for the 4, and then up again for the 5th. And that would honestly be a pretty good setup to help break the resistance that we've been having up here at the 10,000 to $10,500 range. So it is very possible that is what we could be looking at. Pretty decent setup where come back down here. We're finding this 200 MA as support. And get a little bit of a bounce off there, and that would put us at a target of roughly 11,500 if we were looking at potentially finishing off this 5-wave move up. Okay. Now the flip side of that is if this was, truly at the bottom, and if that's the case, then it's a 3-wave move up. So we have 1, 2, 3 for an ABC, pretty clear within there. And then that would basically turn this whole thing into, something a little bit more corrective, such as a WXY or an ABC, where we're, coming out, consolidating for a little bit, making a complex correction, and then we'll have, ultimately another move down. But right here is going to be a pretty important decision. One, if we lose this 200 MA on the daily, that's going to be pretty bearish. You can see that even back here, found it as support multiple times before we ultimately kicked off of it, and wouldn't surprise me if we honestly play around for a little bit, wick through it, and then pop back up. We've done that obviously a few times. We also have a lot of support under it as we are back above pretty much all the EMAs and moving averages. So pretty interesting on the daily. If you look at some of the indicators that I pay attention to, it's also going to be in the masterclass. We have the derivative oscillator. Looks like it's, we're losing a little bit of the downward momentum, starting to tick up a little bit. And on the RSI, we did kind of break that volume band, so it'll be interesting to see what happens if right here, once we meet this EMA, the fast-moving EMA right here. So if we connect it and bounce off of it, I would expect us to have further downside, or if we break through it, then obviously the slow EMA, the red one, that would be our next resistance on the RSI. But if you also look, between a couple of these points, the RSI has reset itself pretty good. We are, let's see, right there on the 45. So kind of flirting with the bearish control zone on that particular area. So if we get a rejection off the CMA and then further down, then I would look for a little bit more of a bearish trend. And somewhat similar on the composite index as well. We are below these fast and slow EMAs. If we come up, we break through this green one here. We expect a little bit further upside, but we're below it, so we could come back up, find it as some resistance, and then ultimately have a little bit of a downward continuation. Let's see. Let's go ahead and let's look at some projections. If we are gonna have some downward momentum, really just kind of start off depending on how we move down, just again projecting if we do have some downward movement, I'd be looking roughly around 7K as some support, and potentially even back down to 63 somewhere in there. And that's just again if we kind of just have a simple A, B, and then we're coming down for a C for a 3-wave correction right here. So we'll see, but it's going to depend if we lose this trend line here, or not the trend line, but if we lose support of the EMAs and the EMAs, or if we break this trend line right up here at 97, if we break this, it would be pretty bullish in my opinion if we break it. But again, we'd want to break it with some conviction, and again, preferably in that 5-wave move to finish off this 5-wave structure going up. And basically we'd want to look a little something like this here. We want to break it in the middle of that third wave because that's where we're going to have the most power. Come back down, retest a little bit, and then get that 5. But it, again, if we have this as a 5-wave move, then you know really this potentially could turn into a wave 1, come back down, find some support with these moving averages and the top of the trend line, and then take off again for another 3, 4, and 5. And that's again projecting further up there, probably looking at roughly somewhere around the 20Ks, and that's going to be ultimately the bull. Bearish is, we break these EMAs, have some, continued downside, and especially if we come down in a 5-wave move, potentially there is an opportunity for that, and we'll look at some smaller time frames and what this wave down here looks like, because being that this was so aggressive, we could either be dealing with a zigzag here or potentially a wave 1, 2, and then coming down for another 3, 4, and 5, to finish off like a zigzag for an A, B, C here to put us somewhere around, this somewhere around the golden pocket potentially. So let's look at the 4-hour real quick. And for those of you that play around with some of the GAN technical analysis, this one has actually played out pretty well for, this overall, move up. We've really found this 45-degree trend line to support the entire way. We did lose it right here on the 4-hour, but it has been playing true pretty well, even from these, resistance standpoints on some of these outer ranks. So it'll be interesting to see, again, if we do break these, then it does open it up for a little bit more clear skies according to the GAN analysis and the GAN chart. But if we get some rejection here, the next biggest area for support is going to be roughly around 8,500 on this particular box, but that gives a little bit better clarity on some of the oscillators that I'm looking for. The derivative oscillator, pretty strong from that last move. This last candle is obviously losing a little bit of strength. We did break the volume band, and we do have some bearish divergence actually on the composite index, which is pretty interesting because we didn't have that on ETH. So that's a little ugly in regards to if we're looking for a little bit further continuation to the upside. So that's pretty interesting. However, what we would want to see is this move here in regards to how far does it play out, just because we can come back down, and if we do just bounce off of the fast moving EMA, the green one, we could still get another pump up and potentially lose that bearish divergence for what we have printing out. My opinion, it's not 100% confirmed yet. I'd want to see a little bit more of a reversal sign versus correctiveness. And then kind of same thing with the RSI. So if we do have the RSI here on the 4-hour come back, and again, we can still bounce off these EMAs and work our way up. RSI, we're only at 55 RSI. 60 is really what we start to look at for the bullish control zone. So we did kind of bounce our head against it. So, finding definitely some resistance on the bullish control zone on the RSI as well. So, all stuff to really pay attention to. And actually, I want to show you guys something real quick as well. Let's see. Yeah, it's this one. So if you actually look at ETH on the GAN chart, it's super interesting that right here we're just tied up in this little triangle up here. But we are coming up on a time fractal as well on the 4-hour. So we could be looking at a reversal. There were a couple different points. That's why I like to look at ETH and Bitcoin together, is just because right here where we have these intersections of these trend lines is normally when we see we start to see it switch a little bit of direction. So whether we're going to get, just follow this trend line down, follow it up, or potentially break through it, that's all something we're looking for. We're, again, kind of at a key intersection right now from a price standpoint from a lot of different areas. So let's see. Obviously, I unlocked the chart. So if you do any kind of GAN, you got to make sure you square your chart the second you do that, which I had to do to look at that ETH piece. It messes the entire thing up. So let's just get rid of this guy. All right, so again, we could be potentially looking at that fourth wave move where we are consolidating sideways for that move up. But right here is what I was looking at before, saying that potentially could be a wave one down because we didn't break a new high. So if this is a wave one, let's get rid of that. Basically, be looking at a 1, 2, coming down for a 3, 4, and a 5. And basically, we would want this right here to be part of the third wave, in which we could have this is the 1, 2, and 3, 4, and a 5 right here. Because obviously, in a third wave, we have 5 waves. So let's project this guy out a little bit. Oops, wrong one. Let's try that one more time. Alright, so if that's a wave 1, we would be looking at something like so. So we're basically going to have our wave 1 here. Basically look like a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5. This looks a little bit too aggressive in my eyes. That could be falls in the area to be potentially a wave 1 if we have a little bit of extended wave 1, and we could end up with a bit of a truncated fifth. But it doesn't exactly break any of the rules. But ultimately, we'd have this as the 1, 2, and then 5 waves within our third for the fourth, and then down again for the fifth. So we could be potentially looking at another wave 1 in this particular area too. So so just something to pay attention to, something to be aware of. If we get another larger 5-wave move, then I would be leaning a little bit more towards this potentially either being a larger C wave or a wave 3 with some further continuation to the downside. Okay. This right here does look very ABC, 3-wave. I guess it was a good opportunity for the bulls to set up for getting another leg up for a 5th wave, but being that we double topped up here, um, looking a little tired, fairly bearish, and ultimately led to some further correction on the downside. Now we could be looking at from a bull scenario is this just simply being an ABC flat correction, and then looking at potentially starting off a 5-wave move right here, which would then potentially turn this into, this would be our 1, 2, 3, coming down for the 4th, and then up again for the 5th, like that, and look at something like that to get us up towards those highs that we were looking at earlier. The only thing I'm not a huge fan of on that one is just this guy right here. Looks a little bit more of a 3-wave move versus a 5-wave move, but not completely out of the question. Look at some of the indicators on the 4-hour, losing a little bit of the upward momentum, coming back in, which is fine. We broke out of the volume bands, which is on the upside. Again, that is fairly bullish. We did bounce off of the kind of same thing here on the RSI. We bounced off of these the fast and slow moving EMAs, which is pretty bullish, which gave us a pretty decent pump right here. but we just need to make sure we're looking at getting the follow through. All right, so let's dive a little bit more detail here to the 15-minute. Also, too, I put it on the other one as well for ETH when I did it. I'll go ahead and do it on this one. If you guys have not had a chance to play with the channel, the fib channel tool, I would highly recommend it. Helps give a little bit of confluence. And we'll go ahead and just do off of these guys right here. So we can look at a couple of different things. Obviously, in the larger time frames, we would include all this. Being that we're on a 15-minute here, pretty heavy drop so far. Come back down, retesting the moving averages. But again, you kind of look for areas of confluence. So you kind of see how a lot of these different pieces of the channel did ultimately play as some support and resistance. And again, it's based upon the fibs. 15-minute, looking pretty rough. If you look at the RSI, this is a pretty good reset in my opinion, where give us a little bit more of a bullish divergence between these low points. So wouldn't surprise me potentially retest the channel and give us another move up or even off of some of these moving averages on the 15-minute. Another piece we could be looking at too, from what I see, just overall on a 15-minute, is if that was the end of the fifth wave, and this would be, fairly simply put, in ABC. Which, if this is an ABC, we would want to ultimately end the move down right here at around 9050, 9050, or because this was pretty aggressive right here, this move down, as if we're starting off a 5-wave move. This would be our 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But you can kind of see right here where this is only 3 waves so far. So if that's the case, it would potentially be overextended. And at that point, be looking for probably losing this channel right here, the 382 channel support on this particular move. But yeah, either way, I'm still only seeing 3 waves. So probably look for a little bit of a bounce where we are currently, and then another leg down ultimately. Yeah, that's what my thoughts are. 15-minute, downward momentum, obviously pretty strong with where we are. It's depending on what we see right here as more of a buy up. If we go all the way back up, get back up to where we were at around 9150, a 3-wave or a 5-wave move down would then be invalidated. Honestly, actually, if we pass the 9125 mark, I would call it invalidated. But not seeing a huge bullish reaction from where we are currently, but potentially still could play out, especially if we do get down here. We have some of these heavier EMAs on the 15, as well as this 382 fib channel, where we could get some upward momentum, and obviously creating a little bit more of this bullish divergence here down on the bottom of the RSI. So let's see. We'll go ahead and zoom out. And go ahead and finish it with a couple targets ultimately. 1 hour. a little bit heavier move. So let's look at the 15-minute. Give you guys something a little bit more near term. So yeah, even matches up perfect with 1.618 for that resistance 2 mark. Next one matches up again perfect right there with for potentially completing out a full wave 3 right here. But we'll want to see what kind of reaction we get on the RSI right here, if this is potentially going to be a wave 4, or if it's going to give us enough momentum to kick off and potentially hit, break the channel and get up for some more highs. On some of the higher time frames, again, some things we'd want to be looking for. 9600. Down here back at the 8600. So we had some, pretty decent moves. Again, these are the 1 hour. And really what I'd want to look for is divergence plays. Again, I highlighted in the video for my #1 trading strategy. Some divergence plays around these is ultimately what I look for. If we get back down here towards, 86, which is, definitely possible. Again, we'd want to look for a divergence on the RSIs to see what kind of support we could be potentially turning that into. So bullish scenario, again, this would turn to a 1-2. We would need, again, this is only 3 waves as well, so we would want to get another leg up, potentially up here towards the 9600. And look at something like that for a 5-wave move up. Or this would be, again, a 3-wave move, looking at like potentially an A. This whole thing is to be, see like that, and then kicking off with a 5-wave move to the downside, or even, a 3-wave, again, making it a little bit more of a complex correction drawn out. So if we move more with a 5-wave move down, again, that would be more towards the start of something, in my opinion, and I'd look for further continuation to the downside. But again, and if it starts off 3-wave, again, we would just move a little more sideways into more correctiveness, and then maybe get a decision sometime in a little bit nearer future, before we ultimately decide if we are going to continue upwards or continue downwards, as we have been going through the sideways correction and consolidation for quite some time. So ultimately, these are my near thoughts, what I'm looking for them to play out, and some potential moves to come up with them. So again, guys, if you like my thoughts, like my channel, make sure you guys smash the likes, hit that subscribe button, and I hope to see you guys in the masterclass.